Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a rainy council meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please read the adequate notice of compliance statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the City Clerk's office in preparation of the council annual meeting notice dated January 8th, 2018, which was properly distributed and posted per statutory requirements. Please be advised that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman?
Here.
Ms. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Gould?
Here.
Ms. Little?
Here.
Mr. McTiernan? Ms. Ogden?
So sorry, here.
President Nigel?
Here. Okay. I'll call upon Bill Rapp to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
You all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the greatest country in the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Now on to approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss
Council
something?
President, explanatory notes.
Oh, right. Sorry.
A closed session meeting as authorized by state statute was announced and held prior to the start of this meeting, and the known items for discussion were listed on the published closed session agenda. Please be advised that council meetings are broadcast live on Comcast Channel 36 and Verizon Channel 30, and rebroadcast on Thursdays and Saturdays on Hometown TV on Comcast 36 and Verizon 33. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, spell your last name, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or a council member reads from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the city clerk's office at rlicatis@cityofsummit.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes or so in length. Unless you are using an electronic device to follow the meeting agenda or need it for professional emergency contact purposes, please turn it off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now on to minutes for approval. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of regular and closed session of May 1st, 2018?
I move to approve those minutes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay, on to reports, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. This morning, along with Chief Robert Wick, the family of Matt Tarantino, and Michael Rogers, Captain Bartolotti, and Lieutenant Rabasco, we attended the Peace Officers Memorial Service in Washington, D.C. It was extraordinarily moving. As you know, Detective Tarantino died in the line of duty last May 30th, in fact. I appreciated the opportunity to congratulate the entire Summit Police Department team of riders. There were 10 officers plus 2 others who were riding but not officers. It was Matt's brother, Mark, and his uncle, and then with their support team of Chief Weck and Matt Button. It was an amazing morning. Hot, but amazing. Vicki Tarantino was there with her 2 boys, aged 4 and 3, and her little girl, Annie, who will be 1 on July 31st. This week was National Police Officers Week, and I would like to express my profound appreciation for our police officers who serve and protect us so well here in Summit. There's been a great deal of activity on the Morris Avenue Bridge lately. Crews are preparing the surface for paving, and NJ Transit has indicated a mid-June completion date. I continue to stay in close contact with the transit officials, and I hope for continuing good weather. I will try to have a firm opening date to report at the next Common Council meeting on June 6th, but I'm fairly confident, and Aaron Schrager has promised me that they will be open by mid-June. Tuesday, May 15th is the last day to register for the Tuesday, June 5, 2018 primary election. The City Clerk's office has extended hours this evening until 9 p.m. for in-person applications. For more information on registering to vote for the general election in November, please visit cityofsummit.org. Poll workers are needed for the June 5 primary election. For more information about these paid positions, please go to cityofsummit.org. As you know, we've been working on the Broad Street West redevelopment concept, and a public meeting to present preliminary recommendations for the Broad Street West redevelopment area will be held on Thursday, May 31st at 7 p.m. at The Connection, which is on 79 Maple Street. Members of the residential and business community are welcome and encouraged to attend a presentation to hear what we have learned from stakeholder meetings and online research surveys, as well as a preliminary recommendation for the redevelopment area. The annual Memorial Day Parade will be held on Monday, May 28th at 10 a.m. The parade will begin at 25 DeForest Avenue and proceed to the Village Green. From the American Revolution up to the present-day conflicts, the parade honors those men and women who lost their lives in military service to our country. This year, from Memorial Day to July 4th, banners honoring our local hometown veterans, hero veterans, will be displayed along DeForest Avenue. We are thankful for the opportunity to honor these Summit citizens for their service. Beginning on Monday, June 4th, and continuing through December 31st, 2018, New Jersey Transit will adjust weekday service schedules on 4 Morrison Essex trains during the installation of federally mandated positive train control safety equipment. Although for Summit commuters, this mostly means that one outbound train is eliminated at 5 p.m. on weekends. I recommend that anyone that commutes into New York Penn Station or Hoboken, you subscribe to NJ Transit alerts at njtransit.com. To sign up for notifications and updates from the City of Summit, please go to cityofsummit.org notifications. This is nothing like the disruption we had last summer. Most of what they're doing at Penn Station this coming summer will affect the east side of Penn Station, which will be affecting, frankly, the LIRR trains. I do believe that they're coming back to us next summer, but they are spreading the pain among all the train lines and not just affecting the Morrison Essex line. And last but not least, I hope that everyone noticed the banner in front of City Hall announcing that next week, from May 20th to 26th, is Division of Public Works Week. I'm thrilled to be able to personally thank members of the DPW who are joining us tonight for all you do to maintain and improve our city and to keep us safe. Thank you for all of your hours of work during snowstorms and during other emergencies, just like tonight. We look forward to your participation in National Night Out in July, where the community can show its appreciation while getting to check out the interesting equipment that you operate. I'll get to this. I have a proclamation coming, but thank you very much, and I hope the community understands how important you are. And I know from some emails I've gotten after all the storms in March that people were very grateful to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On to the City Administrator, Michael Rogers.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. As Mayor Radis had mentioned earlier, we were in Washington, D.C. It was really, truly a memorable experience, and I feel honored to have been a representative of the city there today. It's not every day you get to be in pretty close quarters and have both the President and Vice President of the United States speak at, and all of, Attorney General, other secretaries that were present, and just the presence of law enforcement that were in one place, probably the safest place on earth we were this morning. But it was really great, not the greatest of reasons to be there, but really it was an honor to be there, and I would say that for Mayor Radis as well, to be there with the Tarantino family. So on to annual sewer utility payments. So for the 2018 calendar year, recently the council took some action to change the payment date from September 1st to June 15th. And there have been some questions. We mailed out some payment instructions recently, in the last, I guess, week or so. And there have been questions, and I think some people a little confused at what they're paying for. But ultimately, even though the dates have changed, what you're paying for is the annual calendar year payment. So it is not, you're not really on a quarterly basis. Even though you were paying in September, it was late in the year. We're changing it to mid-year for really cash flow purposes. But you're paying for the calendar year. So last year, when you paid in September, it was for 17, and then now June and 18. So that was one of the primary questions we've been receiving. So I just wanted to let the public know. But if you have any more questions, please email our city tax collector, Jay Ruggiero, that's JRUGGIERO @cityofsummit.org, or call the office directly at 908-273-6404. From Monday, June 4th onward, all Summit court business and court sessions will be held at the New Providence Municipal Center at 360 Elkwood Avenue in New Providence. Summit Municipal Court is moving to New Providence location as part of our shared service agreement with New Providence and Berkeley Heights. So that is happening and officially making that relocation at the beginning of June. Summer hours for City Hall will be in effect for all offices from Tuesday, May 29th through Friday, August 31st. During summer hours, city offices will open for business at 8 a.m. and close at 4:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, offices will be open at 8 a.m. and close at 1 p.m. The milling and paving of alleys adjacent to DeForest Avenue was completed over the last 2 days, and I think just in time. Gentlemen, thank you for all the work you did back there in the alleys, but they just finished before this violent weather came through. The project finished a week ahead of schedule, and just the weather cooperated, so we're grateful for that. And then finally, Summit has been awarded a $400,000 grant for fiscal year 2018 from the New Jersey Department of Transportation's Safe Streets to Transit program that will be used to improve safety for Summit commuters traveling to and from the train station and Summit's commuters' lots and garages. Improvements will focus on curb realignment, sidewalk replacement, installation of traffic markings and signage, new additional LED lighting, bollards and/or planards, inlaid warning systems, and high visibility crosswalks. That's all I have for this evening. Council President, thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's great news that we got $400,000
That
to
was
do all
big.
this
That
work.
was one of 4 communities in the state for the $1 million that was granted. We got 40%, so that was a great grant.
And that is a
So,
great percentage, 40%.
Yeah.
So, I just have a couple of comments. One is tonight is the first night of Ramadan, so we wish our friends and neighbors who are Muslim best of Ramadan. And I think I speak for all of council when I say that we give our thanks to the mayor, the police chief, the city administrator, and the officers who went down for the peace officers ceremony in honor of Detective Tarantino. Obviously, Detective Tarantino is never lost from our minds, nor is his family. And so we thank all of these folks for going down and representing not just the city, but the entire community who still think about him. And then finally, I want to note that there's the Council on the Road program. The next Council on the Road is on June 13th at 7 p.m. At the First Aid Squad building, the second floor of it. Council on the Road is council members go out there, the mayor, myself, and 2 members of council go out there to listen to the public. Whatever questions folks have, we will try to answer to the extent that we can, and if we can't, we will go back and try to find answers for you. It's an informal discussion. There's no 3-minute rule. There's no coming up to a podium. You raise your hand, however long you want to keep on asking us questions, we're there for you. So I encourage folks in the community that have concerns, issues, questions about things that we're doing, show up. It's again June 13th at 7 p.m. at the First Aid Squad. And with that, we have a proclamation tonight, so I will turn it over, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. We're going to shift the agenda just a tad so we can do this proclamation quickly first and then have the presentation from the Historical Preservation Committee. So if I'd like, please, to ask gentlemen to come to the podium and join me, Chris Holenstein, Doug Rillo, Warren Wolf, and Patrick Priori. And did I forget somebody? Because there's 5 people there. Aye. It's important to me that we do this tonight because you guys are really on the front line of taking care of the day-to-day stuff that people in Summit expect and get. And I think that you're all kind of unsung heroes. So I really want to make sure we make it really apparent and how grateful we are to you. And I've sent a couple of emails that I've gotten from folks in the community in March and last year, but it's not enough. So let's finish this. So Joe Steiner can hear me.
Apparently he can. There you go.
Whereas public works services are important to the health, safety, and well-being of the City of Summit's citizens, and whereas these services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting public buildings and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas the support and understanding of an informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems. And whereas the American Public Works Association has celebrated the annual National Public Works Week since 1960, and whereas the year 2018 marks the 58th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, and whereas it is in the interest, the public interest, for the citizens, civic leaders, and children of Summit to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. Now, therefore, I, Nora Radis, Mayor of Summit, do hereby proclaim May 20 to 26, 2018 as National Public Works Week throughout this city. And I urge all our residents to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the very substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Summit to be affixed this 15th day of May in the year 2018. Congratulations. I mean it. People over and over again, honestly, this community is so appreciative of, and I said to somebody, it's not just the hard work you do, but it's your demeanor and how well you are treat your people. It means a lot, because when you're helping folks, they're in crisis, and your approach is great.
Okay. Okay. And I was remiss in my council president comments when I didn't say that I'm sure, while the mayor gave the proclamation, all council joins in thanking the Department of Public Works for what they do. And we see it every single day. And actually, a lot of this agenda you'll see how much stuff is actually Department of Public Works achieves for the city. So thank you guys. It's now on to presentations, and tonight we have the Historic Preservation Committee on deck. So with that, I'm going to call up Tom Conway, who's the chairperson of it, and Melissa Spur, who's a member. And if there's anybody else, there's no historical member. I'm sorry, there is a historical member? Oh, sorry, Megan Chang. Sorry, Megan. Sorry. This has just been one of these crazy evenings. Come on up, Megan. Give the historical minute. Sorry.
She even sent the...
Sorry. Whenever you're ready, Megan.
Hi, my name is Megan Chang. During Architecture 1, one of my favorite classes was the day that Mr. Fern brought us on a tour of Kent Place Boulevard. He pointed out the various styles of homes and their distinguishing features. Then we were assigned to focus on an interesting architectural feature in Summit. I chose turrets. This eventually led to my work with the Historic Preservation Commission, where I documented historic homes with plaques. After sharing photos of the plaque program homes at the Carter House, I was shown a book with black and white photos of Summit. My interest was sparked when I read about the Comstock House, whose plot I once lived across the street from. This home was built in 1892 for Anthony Comstock, a man who held immense power as an agent of the U.S. Postal Service. The architect is said to have been John N. Caddy. Coincidentally, this house, which was at 35 Beekman Road, had a round corner turret. Since creating the Historic Homes presentation, I've created an interactive walking tour on the Summit Architecture website and used Google's My Maps program. Maroon stars represent the 4 centuries, and dot icons mark historic buildings in town. The tour can be extended by also visiting nearby homes, which are shown in yellow. Now, the Historic Preservation Commission is working on attracting the next generation. This includes the possibility of creating Snapchat filters, Pokemon Go stops, and introducing geocaches. Geocaching is essentially a treasure hunt, and it would take place in public spaces with historical significance. Puzzles could be incorporated to encourage the reading of plaques as they are used at the Great Swamp.
Thank you very much, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Can you give us your?
She actually
She did,
emailed
right.
it to me, too.
Okay, I'm going to just stop tonight. I just should stop. I'm just tired. Yeah. All right, now.
That
we'll
was
go-
interesting, thank you.
Yeah, and actually, I've been
Thank
to
you,
a
Megan.
home that had one of those historic plaques. It's really cool. You get to read about, you walk into the house and you're like, oh, this is really interesting. Okay.
And
So-
that link that she shared, would that be available to everyone since she turned it in with the placement of the historic homes?
Should be able to get it on the city website, right? Yeah, let's get that on the
Yeah,
city
we should get
website.
that document you shared, Megan, on the city website.
It actually will be uploaded to the library website and the city website.
And it's
Excellent.
also going to be on the revamped Summit Downtown website.
Great.
Wonderful.
Can I proceed, Dave?
Well, let's give Melissa just a second, and then we'll be.
Okay.
Okay. So we have Chairman Tom Conway, Claire Toth, who's a member of the Historic Preservation Committee, Melissa Spur, who's also a member, and so whenever you're
Thank
ready,
you.
Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Conway. I'm Chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, and a little bit about me. I'm a Summit native. I went to Brayton Middle School and Summit grad. I'm an architect and certified historic preservation planner, and I'm a partner here at Rosen Kelly Conway and Summit, where I am a partner, and I've been serving for 22 years there. I've served on the HPC for 6 years, also been vice chair for the past 4, and I also was on the Economic Development Committee for the master plan. And I'm here to help as a representative of the Preservation Commission to help council, planning board, achieve the goals to set forth by the master plan reexamination as a free resource, and I underline free. I chair a great group of engaged commissioners, and I'd like to thank, on behalf of all of us, Mike, who isn't here tonight, David, also Steve, and Mary for their advisory service to the HPC. It's been invaluable. I'm happy to introduce Melissa Spur.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here to present the Historic Preservation Commission, or as we call ourselves, the HPC, our goals for this 2-year cycle. So we'll start with who we are. We are an advisory group formed by ordinance. We're architects, designers, lawyers, realtors, marketers, financial consultants, and historians, and we are a resource to the city and its boards. And what do? By our enabling ordinance, we maintain and update the survey of historic districts and sites. We review relevant applications that come before us from planning and zoning. We educate and do outreach to the community about historic preservation. And we are to make recommendations to the mayor and council on historic preservation matters, which is what we're here to do tonight. So speaking of education, we have our longest running program is the Plaques and Markers program. At this point, we have over 100 homes that have historic plaques, which Megan graciously took photos of. So we have all of that documented. But we're also working on a number of new projects. The first of which is this interactive walking tour of Summit that Megan helped us to prepare. And that'll be up on the city site and also on Summit Downtown Inc.'s website for visitors and residents alike to be able to go to the historic downtown buildings and also nearby homes that have plaques. So it'll give a route, you can choose what you want to do, and there's a little snapshot of that there. The next thing we wanted to do was to roll out an annual Historic Preservation Award in 2019. We're working on the eligibility criteria and selection process, but that would be for commercial and residential properties that are exemplary works of rehabilitation, adaptive reuse, renovations and additions, and also new infills that are in keeping with the character of its neighborhood. And lastly, but not least, we are working on improving our digital public presence. We've formed an Instagram account, have yet to put any posts up, but, but that's a project for the 2018-19 cycle. And so speaking of education, this is a little short primer on Summit and its historic preservation status. We have a Historic Preservation Commission. We have an active nonprofit historical society. The Summit Downtown is on the national and state historic registers, and we have 12 identified historic districts as of the last survey in 1991. And in addition, we have numerous historic sites and some 4th century sites like Twin Maples and Reeves Reed Arboretum. So this is the Downtown Historic District, and what we're talking about is preservation of buildings of historic and architectural value to the city, not just any old building. So even in this map of the Downtown Historic District, there are buildings which are contributing and others which are non-contributing. And why do we preserve? There are tangible and intangible reasons. The intangible is about the pride of place when you can associate your identity with a certain neighborhood and a certain character and heritage. And there are also tangible benefits, like you can get state grants when you're on the state register, and you can get dollar for dollar 20% federal tax credits when you have qualified rehabilitations of historic properties. And this was all at the forefront of the most recent master plan re-exam process, where literally goal number 1 was about preservation and Summit's historic character and how it's an economic benefit to have the character at the forefront of the downtown. In fact, we did a word cloud of the master plan, and discounting the words summit and city and objectives, design, development, community, and historic character were amongst the top words in the master plan. So the first item, the first objective, which has been actually in the master plans for a number of years now, is to do an update of these 12 districts, which were last surveyed by a third-party consultant in 1991. And we on the HPC are ready, willing, and able to take on this update free of charge for the city. And we're excited about this for a number of reasons. We think it's going to be a great tool for the HPC to have this updated for our own reviews, but also that it would be a great tool for zoning and planning to have this all kind of updated. And not only that, but Along with what Megan was saying, we're planning on doing more outreach to the community, and what a great way to have Snapchat filters for the different districts that you can engage the young people to attach to. And not only that, but also in expansion of our markers program, we would love ideally to have markers designating these historic districts and explaining their significance for, again, residents and visitors when they're passing by, that it's a constant reminder of where this area comes from. The second item in the master plan was about design standards and strengthening Summit's design standards. And again, we wanted to reiterate that the HPC is a resource here for the city to utilize, and we can be of assistance in developing these guidelines. Right now, the only two items we have to go off of for our reviews are quoted right here, and it comes down to things have to be in keeping with the neighborhood. And there's a wide interpretation of what that could mean. So we have here a couple of photos of Summit's streetscape. You know, we know that there are some things that are working better than others, but we are also already working with city staff to implement a policy that would help the staff make design decisions on downtown matters. Things like, what color should the garbage cans be, and the benches, and the light fixtures? Because over time, there's all different kinds of, I guess, campaigns that have happened, and it has resulted in a number of inconsistencies, and we don't, we feel bad for city staff who are agonizing over the color of something when maybe that is not their background, but we have designers and architects available to be able to answer those questions.
And if you note, the image to the left is the new pay stations that were put in, and they weren't really thought through as part of an integral part to the district. And the image to the right, which is Beechwood, obviously that's one of our most successful environments right now. It's very consistent, and it's developing that as the kind of forefront. We're right now reviewing the next piece that's coming into the green, which is they're just realigning the streetscape, the walkways, and all of the seating and lighting, and that's appropriate, and we want to make sure that it all ties together with everything. So there's a consistent pattern when we're showing these images. The one to the left, we're talking about what we need to work on, and the one to the right is what we're being very successful with. And we want you also to realize that, I think a lot of people don't realize that if only moved here, let's say in the last decade or two or three, how much we've made progress. I mean, Union Place now is really a masterpiece of streetscape. We have public space that is used to its max, and it's actually extremely prestigious. When I was growing up, that was a tough neighborhood, and it's hard to imagine that at this point. So we've made a lot of progress with streetscape, but we want to continue that development. Here's just some other examples. There's just a number of pieces, like even with, we're selecting green, you'll notice there's 50 shades of green, and we want to make sure that we try to get as much consistency as possible with that. That's image to the left. Up to the right, we have the new SDI signs, which aren't necessarily as well integrated into the rest of the streetscape, so we want to make sure that that is working, as well as our signage and all the lights and all the street indicators are not integrated. And we know that we have black and white street signs, red and white, and here we're seeing green and white, and we want to get that all worked out. And here, this is just where the private entities have really kind of claimed and helped to develop and enhance the downtown. We have Fiorino, the Summit House, and now new Serena Lily. You can see that the public environment that they're creating is very attractive. It has a nice articulation, and they've done a really nice job of greening up the space, but still keeping a consistency. And you'll also note Serena Lily is a great, when we're talking about design awards, that's a great example of a corporate environment that's come in, reinterpreted a building. You'll see they did a really fine restoration of that building where it kept its cornice, its upper body, then they've rebuilt the streetscape and the lower portion, and that's a modern interpretation. And what they did, which is very interesting about this design, is they have a pattern of having porches on all their projects. So what they did was they integrated an internal porch there. So if you go by there, it's actually like a public space within that. And that's a really creative way of it. So we really want to acknowledge these kind of really nice renovations that people and companies are doing. Here, these are other New Jersey streetscapes that we're looking at as inspiration and that are also working. Montclair is to the left, Madison is up to the right, Princeton is at the bottom. These are regional ones that have had some success. They're also working towards that. If you go around to the outskirts of the districts, there's certainly stuff that is not pulled together, but they certainly, if you look at the civic environment out near City Hall and Madison, it's really pulled together now. It's really stunning. Montclair, we're looking at Church Street, which is definitely their best piece. Also Park Place is quite a nice, and Princeton, we're here at Nassau, which is, of course, stunning. But actually, even in Princeton, if you walk 3 or 4 blocks out, they still haven't gotten there yet. So we're all working together, but we want to look at what's working and what isn't. And these are other U.S. streetscapes. I think a lot of people don't realize that they go on vacation to all these places, and they choose to go there. Nantucket, we're looking at all these other wonderful, Hamptons, what do we have here?
Ann
Ann Arbor,
Charleston.
Charleston, yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people don't realize necessarily when they're there why they like it so much. But it's not only the historic fabric, it's the way the new buildings have been put in that enhance that environment and the streetscape. And I think a lot of people don't realize it, and what we talk a lot with the planning department as well, that it's one of those things no one really notices, but when it works, you notice it and you feel it, okay? And here's minimum design standards. This is just an indicator when we're talking about these 2 buildings are Commerce Bank, now they're TD Bank. Both of these proposals came in with a year. The one to the left, Summit, accept it. We have no standards, and we just said, fine. The one to the right, Chatham Borough, got the same building that we got, and they said, no, go back to the drawing boards, and that's what they got. And that building, the one to the left, sits on our green across from the post office, brick building. Which would we rather have? So there's nothing to say that we can't expect more from different people developing within our town, and it doesn't cost us more to ask for better. And here is a commercial new construction. Obviously to the left, this is the building, a lot of people are talking about the new nail salon. As far as an infill building, planning department's talking a lot about this. This is kind of it's below the minimum of what we are looking for. Everyone's talking about the street environment. It's really not well developed. The body of it, the cornice, it really doesn't fit in. And what everyone isn't noticing is to the left, that building is 8 years old. That whole facade was rebuilt. Perfect, beautiful. Looks like part of a historic building. The Pizza Vita building to the right, they redid the brickwork, and they also put a new entry to their restaurant. Look at how great those look. And there's nothing to say that we can't expect better when people are thinking about it and help them to get to that point. Now, if you know, go back. The other building to the right is a new infill. Look how well it ties into the buildings on both sides. The cornice piece integrates to the ones on each side. This is what we're hoping for. And institutional renovations, these are 2 local institutions that have done expansions. The one to the left, neighbors are not too happy with. The one to the right, they're really proud of how Kent Place was able to expand that. And that's a LEED certified building. They use the historic integrity. They kept all the historic buildings. It's stunning, and it really enhances Norwood Avenue. Go ahead. Yep.
And the third objective that was listed in the master plan, which we are taking on in the next 2 years, is to include a historic preservation review on permits for exterior modifications, demolitions, and new construction for properties in historic districts or otherwise historic properties. This is something that has been in our master plans for some time and has always been growing in importance. I mean, I would say it's over the last 20 years. And what we're looking at here are some of our kind of favorite, most treasured streetscapes. And you'll notice that what is so grand about them is that the homes are all kind of in scale and in proportion with each other and consistent along the streets. That doesn't mean they're all the architecturally same design, but they fit within a certain model that is, that creates a certain aesthetic. And right now, without a home applying for a variance or otherwise needing approval from the planning board, these modifications never come before the Historic Preservation Commission. So we are losing out on a lot of, I would say, valuable opportunities to comment and help and be a part of the design process to encourage homeowners and developers to maintain consistency within the town and meet those standards. And we know that in other towns, even in their ordinances, property owners and designers are encouraged to reach out to their historic preservation commissions early on in the design process to help give them options on what is suitable, and then they can work from there. And those reviews would be the same as now. They're an advisory in nature, but we think it would be a helpful step in getting to where we want to be for further preserving our districts. As you can see, the scale of Summit is changing, and Tom, I think you wanted to speak to this one.
The building to the left, the building to the left, if you see the hardware store, that used to be the height of all the buildings on that strip. And if you note, the development on both sides is much higher. A lot of people don't realize that over time, that was the height of the buildings in that area, and then it stepped up to the Summit Opera House. At this point, these other buildings are at the same height as the Opera House, and the Opera House doesn't have a hierarchical experience. So that's just something we're noting. I think people need to be cognizant as we fill this in. We're not saying necessarily this is bad or good, but we have to be cognizant that the scale is changing, and it's happening, and we have to know or plan for it and understand that. And with that scale comes use, parking, all these other entities. With the economic development, how are we going to accommodate all of this? So that's a condition. Also here you'll see Butler Parkway. The post-Korean War split levels are really being demolished and replaced. And that streetscape is changing very dramatically. I mean, you can see this is one of the ones left. And sometimes we see value in keeping some of these elements, and some of them don't. Maybe we don't. But we have to acknowledge that and understand what's going on and realize it and understand it and determine as a group between planning and council and historic preservation, is this what we want? Is this what's happening? And because people are talking about it, and these are our taxpayers, so we want to just acknowledge that. Now, this other, we're looking at Laurel here. This is a consistent neighborhood, which is that neighborhood, as we know, the whole Memorial Field area is very consistent and has kept its integrity really since it was built in the 1930s. And there's a certain sense of place there, and I think people are attracted to that. So we need to acknowledge also when things are being successfully kept. Okay.
And the last item is just to demonstrate kind of what does it mean to be in keeping, which is the standard that we're looking at currently in our design guidelines. It means, again, scale, proportionality, and a lot of these things can be accomplished through various zoning requirements, setbacks, height restrictions, lot coverage ratios. But it does create a visual difference when you're looking at a single property in and of itself and when you're looking at the street that it sits on and the context that it's in. So, I wish my pointer was working, but, but you can see on the right, those are both new constructions. However, they fit in seamlessly with their surroundings. And on the left, maybe it kind of it's much taller than the capes that it's surrounding, and it has that kind of different frontage than the rest of the neighborhood.
And it has a series of roof lines that everybody talks about in match and development. These are things that we don't want too many roof lines to just, let's say, create an environment that is inconsistent. It may work on certain streets, but here it doesn't. And that's Ashland. The upper one to the right is Linden. That house to the left behind, that colonial, that's an infill house. That's very consistent, almost, that street is extremely consistent. And the one on the bottom is Lenox, That's a new infill, and that fits very seamlessly into that streetscape.
So again, it's not that change is bad or new development is bad, but certainly what we would like to see is that new development is enhancing the character of the city and not detracting from the existing character of the city. So this is an example of renovations and additions. And you can see on the one that it was very obvious that a renovation or addition was done, and on the other, it's kind of hard to tell that there was an addition, but there was. Because it suits, again, it's not necessarily architectural design, but it is very much scale and proportionality to maintain the integrity of that character of the home. And these are examples of successful adaptive reuse, which is everybody wins kind of situation, where we get to keep these wonderful historic buildings that have stories from our town, like the Silk Mill, and adapt them to our contemporary uses. And so with that, we conclude our presentation, and if you have any questions, we are always available.
Okay. Let me, before I open it up for council questions and questions from the public, let me just give you a couple of my thoughts. I served as liaison, as you know, to the Historic Preservation Committee. I'm a big believer in historic preservation, and I think, actually, just thinking back of the couple of the last presentations we've had the Environmental Commission come in, we've had the Arts Committee come in, and we've now had you guys come in. Each one of these brings a different aspect that makes our town what it is. Nature, how the trees, the tree canopy is important to us. The arts, how we put in art in different places, that's important to us. And historic preservation of buildings is very important to us, because I think you're absolutely right about the streetscape. A couple of things. I also sit on the planning board, and did last year or the year before when we had the master plan process going through, and it was very clear to me that folks in this town are very, very serious about what kind of buildings they want to see. I think that undoubtedly they put up different types of buildings, and people had very strong opinions that they like the historic look of the town. It gives it a sense of where they are and what kind of look, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're objecting to anyone contemporary, but it's a combination of understanding how it fits in. We, of course, are going through, as the mayor said, a redevelopment process that you guys know on the Broad Street corridor. That we will have to look very carefully at what scale of building and what the design of it and how it fits in. We have, I think, probably what Federalist kind of style architecture, although I'm not an architect, but I think it's probably close. Some brick-looking type buildings that have a certain feel to them. Question is, when we put in something new, how does that fit in with everything there? But you guys, I'm sure, will be involved in that process.
We're going to be active in that, and
Yeah.
also...
And then the DRO. Right.
Yes.
So we launched at the beginning of this year a complete look at the development regulations and ordinances. Part of the reason for doing that is because of the design criteria and looking at that big issue during the master plan process, big issue in the planning board. And so I'm sure you guys are going to be very much involved in that.
And Bill actually reached out to us directly, as did Jennifer, to ask us to help with that.
That's great.
And we're happy to help. Free?
Yes.
Pro bono?
Yes. No, understood.
Just, you know.
No, that's great. And I think, I think that at the end of the day, doing the proper type of design enhances everybody's property values, enhances the town's value, enhances it as a destination place. And I think people appreciate that and get it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues, see if they have any questions and comments.
Thank you. Well, that was very well done.
Thank you, Mary.
Wonderful. I just wanted to comment for Megan. I can't wait to do your walking tour, and I really appreciate all the time and energy and effort you've put into that. And I think that's a really exciting addition to the city, and I think that's going to just really be fun. I just want to comment also on having now been on the liaison for a little bit. I had no idea about the 12 historic districts. I've lived here a pretty long time, but had no idea. So then, of course, you talk about, your own district and feeling kind of proud of it, and I don't know my district. So it makes me, want to know about it. So I think the more we educate, and that's to your point of one of your goals, educate people what districts there are in Summit, the history of these districts, and the silk mill that I learned about and the silk district was fascinating. So I think people are really going to, I hope, feel as enthusiastic as I'm feeling about that, what you're going to be doing with that. So I look forward to hearing about my district.
Anybody else? Matt?
Well, thank you both for an excellent presentation. It's funny how when David mentioned the presentations that were really good, I think, Melissa, you were on both of them, right? The shade tree one and this one. I wonder if you could speak a little more about Butler Parkway. I live near there and see it very frequently, and I am not sure what to do. Some people really like those houses at the post-Korean War. Someone referred to them as Jetsons houses, I heard them. And I don't know. What would you recommend on Butler?
I think that we have to, as a group, make a decision about what's happening there. I mean, I think Butler Parkway, there's so much that's already gone on there. We're kind of we're getting to a tipping point, which that image indicated. So, but there may be areas that within that neighborhood. Now, those buildings, it's very interesting. A lot of them are splits. Actually, most of them are splits that were there. They were built after the Korean War. Actually, a lot of the materials that were utilized in those houses were actually surplus from the Korean War, and some of the packing material was even used for that was recycled for that. If we've all lived in town for a while, we certainly have many friends that have lived in those houses and actually like them quite a bit, and they do serve, just on a more beyond architectural, they serve to become kind of a beginning and more of an end to people living in Summit too. They work great as, let's say, starting out, and they also work great as you kind of tear down. And as we let's say, develop some of these houses, that piece kind of goes away, and that's a conversation, it's a bigger conversation beyond the architecture. I think that there is value in mid-century architecture. It certainly isn't that desirable, let's say, in this community at this point. There is some of those houses that are being redeveloped by some very good architects that are looking at more mid-century design, and certainly the millennials are very interested in that. So we may see a very different shift there in the next 5 to 10 years. You won't be surprised. Now, there's neighborhoods in Montclair, in Maplewood, certainly in South Orange, in the Newstead neighborhood, that those houses are the hottest. So actually the split level is now the most popular house coming in. So when that happens and you start getting those people interested in those houses, it may be a very different thing. So we have to look at that, and I think that certainly at this point we have to get a decision about which streets are more intact, and maybe those may be something that we want to say, okay, let's see if we can do something that's more contextual on the street or talk about it. But that's a bigger conversation than we're at this point to say. But we do want to acknowledge that is, in a lot of ways, there are many streets there. Sheridan Road, Fay, there's a number of them that are still very consistent. And we may say that, okay, Butler Parkway, remember, there's a lot of pressure there because it's across from the park, it's across from the school, it has a much bigger sense there. You have a view, so that's kind of what happens on those kind of more prominent streets. Larned, for instance, on Memorial Field, those streets are often, there's more pressure on those homes to expand out and have more of a view. They want bigger houses there. And I think that's going to happen to a point. So I think that's a conversation that I don't want to get to the point where we're making those decisions without a kind of a bigger discussion with planning board. But I think we do need to acknowledge that it's happening, and that
Or past tense.
or happened.
In Butler's case.
Exactly. Butler may be at the point where there's no return on that. And certainly that one block that I was showing in that image. And remember, to go and take images, it's difficult to take images in town and not I was trying not to have an internal dialogue there. I'm just trying to show what's happening, because it does bring up those conversations about, because I think a lot of people talk about it, but they don't really want to talk about it, or they just, so I think we're all talking now about the design. People are now talking about design for the first time really in decades. So it's exciting, but we need to
Yeah.
start really thinking about what that means.
Well, thank you. I would love to see an example of a mid-century redesign
There's one
that you
actually.
talked about.
11 Sheridan is coming up that there's actually, it isn't done yet, but it's been proposed. There's actually mid-century.
We're reusing some of the materials.
Yeah, they're reusing. There's an architect in Millburn that is specializing in that kind of mid-century, and he's doing a lot of work in this whole region, in kind of South Orange, Maplewood, Millburn, Summit now, and I saw another one he's working on in Summit. So it's interesting that there is that interest. So it may be, we're excited to see it, because we want people to be happy with their own homes and not feel like they have to tear it down necessarily.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I just want to thank you for all your hard work as volunteers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, just, anybody from the public have any questions about the historic preservation? And I want to thank you guys for coming in. It was an excellent presentation, very informative, and thank you also for the memorandum, because I think this is puts out some guidelines as to what you guys want to accomplish, and it's something that we can aim towards. And Megan, thank you again for the historic minute, as well as for what you've done for the city. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Okay, now moving on to public comments. So this is the portion of the meeting that folks from the public, if there is something that's not on the agenda and would like to comment, please come on up, state your name and your address, and take public comments.
Good evening. My name is Bill Rapp, and I am past commander of the American Legion post here in Summit, and I am currently the state commander of the New Jersey State Commander of the Military Order of the World Wars. May is a very busy month for us here in Summit. We have this Saturday our All-American Fish Fry, so please come and be hungry. We've got over 500 pounds of whiting ready for you. Now, Mayor, remember, it's your job to make sure we have good weather. That's the only thing you have to do.
If I could get it warmer in here, I would.
Yeah, I understand. I saw that on the agenda. Several other things we've got coming up. We've got the, that you'll be voting on tonight about our Massing of Colors, second annual Massing of Colors and flag retirement ceremony on the Village Green, and that's going to be on June 3rd. We are very grateful for a lot of people who have helped us along the way, and we come upon some really special people sometime. And tonight I would like to honor one of those. Chief Evers, would you come up, please? This is what they call a gotcha moment. Chief, your help with us on the flag retirement ceremony and the massing of colors has been very instrumental. Your assistance in gathering up flags from our white box out in front, which occasionally I get an Instagram from Rosie. It says, "It's still overflowing." That doesn't happen anymore since the chief has been helping us with that, and we will be disposing a lot of these. So on behalf of the American Legion and the Military Order of the World Wars, it is my pleasure to present the chief with our Silver Patrick Henry Medallion. And I'll read the certificate. The Silver Patrick Henry Medallion for Patriotic Achievement, presented to Eric P. Evers, Director, Fire Chief and Fire Official, Summit, New Jersey. Citation: for exemplary actions in support of the veterans programs of both the American Legion and the Military Order of the World Wars, for showing the knowledge, experience, and compassion needed to effectively lead by example, the undersigned does hereby award the Silver Patrick Henry Medallion in recognition of his outstanding service. Dated 15 May 2018, myself, William Rapp, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, retired, New Jersey Department Commander. And with it goes our Silver Patrick Henry Award. Chief,
Thank you. It kind of took me off guard. I wasn't expecting this. But I just want to say it is a pleasure. It's an honor when Bill asked us to get more involved with the organization. They do great work. And it's really a testament for our firemen. They're the ones that do all the work. They do all the jobs. They're honor guard and a fireman. Just want to appreciate it. It's an honor to be recognized. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Get a
Chief,
picture?
Picture, turn around.
Where's Chief White when you need him?
All righty. Are there any other public comments? Oh, Bill, what time is the fish fry?
from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. right over there on Lyric Park.
So for those of you who can't hear it, it was 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Lyric Park, which is right on Beechwood Avenue in downtown Summit.
Beechwood and Bank.
Beechwood and Bank.
But you got to get there early. I mean, I've been there.
Oh, yeah. The line does go around.
Let's not forget that.
All righty. Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to close public comments. All right, moving on for ordinances for introduction. We have 4 ordinances tonight dealing with finance and personnel. So with that, Councilwoman Little, you're up for ordinance for introduction 5716.
Council President, shall I read it?
Oh,
The
yes,
title?
please, yes, thank you.
Bond ordinance appropriating $2,500,000 and authorizing the issuance of $2,375,000 bonds or notes of the city for various improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the City of Summit in the County of Union, New Jersey.
Councilwoman Little.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight we have 4 ordinances for introduction. As most of you are aware, a few weeks ago we passed the city budget, and these are the bond ordinances that actually appropriate the money to pay for different items in the budget. The first ordinance, which is number 5716, appropriates $2.5 million and authorizes the issuance of $2.375 million of bonds in order to do the municipal improvements part of the budget. So I would ask that this ordinance be introduced tonight.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Ms. Ogden?
Aye.
President Naidu.
Aye. Okay, moving on. Finance and personnel 5717. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance?
Bond ordinance appropriating $750,000 and authorizing issuance of $712,500 bonds or notes of the city for various sewer utility improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the City of Summit, County of Union, New Jersey.
Councilwoman Little.
Thank you, Council President. This is ordinance 5717, and this is the bond ordinance to appropriate $750,000 and authorize the issuance of $712,500 bonds for the sewer utility improvements, and I ask that this ordinance be introduced tonight.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Ms. Ogden?
Aye.
President Naidu.
Aye. Okay, moving on. Finance and personnel 5718. Madam Clerk, would you please read that ordinance?
Bond ordinance appropriating $101,000 and authorizing issuance of $95,950 bonds or notes of the city for various parking utility improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the City of Summit in the County of Union, New Jersey.
Councilwoman Little.
Thank you. Ordinance 5718 is to authorize the bond ordinance appropriating and authorizing the issuance of bonds for the parking utility improvements. And I ask that this ordinance be approved for introduction tonight.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Ms. Ogden?
Aye.
President Naidu.
Aye. Okay, last ordinance for introduction. Finance and personnel 5719. Madam Clerk, would you please read that ordinance?
Bond ordinance providing for the improvement of various roads in and by the City of Summit in the County of Union, New Jersey, appropriating $1,560,000 therefore, directing a special assessment of part of the cost thereof, and authorizing issuance of $1,482,000 bonds or notes of the city for financing same.
Councilwoman Little.
Thank you, Council President. This last finance ordinance is to provide for the bond that issues money to improve various roads in the city, including Wallace Road, Hobart Avenue, Linden Place, Oakland Place, Laurel Avenue, Larned Road, and I ask that this ordinance be approved for introduction tonight.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Ms. Ogden?
Aye.
President Naidoo?
Aye. Okay, that ends all the ordinances for introduction. For those of you at home, please note that the hearing, which will be held on Wednesday, June 6th, it's because the primary is on June 5th, so the next council meeting will actually be on June 6th. At that point of time, we'll have a hearing, and it'll be public comments are welcome at that point in time before we consider voting for them. Moving on to resolutions. First up is Finance and Personnel, 5744. Councilwoman Little.
Thank you, Council President. In the same vein, this is a resolution that authorizes the schedule of school levy payments. This is in approval of the school budget, which was also passed by the council. I would ask that council approve this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Any further discussion by members of council? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. Finance and Personnel, number 2, 5752, Councilwoman Little.
Thank you. This is a non-budgetary resolution, but this one is to appoint members to the Summit Economic Development Advisory Committee. If you'll remember, the council approved the formation of that advisory committee at a previous council meeting, and pending closed session discussion, I would move that we approve the appointment of Jonathan Betts, Paul Formicelli, Julie Keenan, and Jeffrey Wagenbach as citizens at large to serve on that committee. And I ask that we approve this resolution.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments from members of council? Mary.
Council President, thank you very much. I just, for the public, I want to be very clear that while I did not vote for this committee last time, I'm not in support of the committee. I am going to be supporting these appointments this evening and want that to be clear on the record, because I do think excellent people have come forward and are wanting to volunteer, and I absolutely support that, and so I want for the public record to that to be clear.
Thank you. Anybody else? Steve.
I concur with Councilwoman Ogden. I think these 4 candidates, volunteers, are outstanding individuals, and hope that they can provide some guidance. Things a little repetitive on the committee, but I will support these 4 individuals.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else? Any comments from members of the public? Any further discussion by members of council? I'll just join my colleagues in saying that we are very fortunate in this town to have very talented people who are willing to give of their time to help us in looking at the trends, the economic trends, socioeconomic trends actually that are going on in and around us, as well as the issues that our region faces. And we hope that their contribution to this Economic Development Committee will help enhance this community and this city. And with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Okay. Moving on to Buildings and Grounds, Councilwoman Fox.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution 5750 is to authorize zoning board member reassignments. Due to resignation on the zoning board, it is necessary to reassign existing members to full or alternate positions. Following discussion in closed session, remaining members of the zoning board have been reassigned so that each member moves up 1 position, so we can fill the full member position, and we are now left with a vacancy on alternate 4. I move the resolution to authorize zoning board member reassignments.
Good.
Second.
Any comments from members of council? Any comments from members of the public? Any further discussion? This is just basically a procedural move we're doing here tonight, and then now that we have an opening in the alternate 4, we will look at candidates who submitted applications. So those of you who may be interested, please submit your applications. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Moving on to safety, Councilman Gould, safety number 1.
Thank you, Council President. I move to pass this resolution to authorize a state contract purchase for fire department radios, not to exceed $252,015.60. This is money that's been budgeted in past capital budgets, and I think the fire department prudently waited until other communities. It's basically a statewide trend that's come around with a new kind of radio, and our shared dispatch center is using this, and it's a state-backed program. So we waited a few years to make sure it worked well. Upon seeing that it does, we want to go ahead and pull the trigger on this, and this will fix a few problems. There's dead zones in Summit that the fire department currently deals with that they won't have to deal with anymore, and they won't need new radios for quite some time. So I move that we pass this resolution.
Great.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments from members of council? Yes, Mary.
Just quickly, it's been a long time coming. We've been talking
Chief,
about
do
these
you want to
radios for
address
a long
it?
time.
Come on up. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is a statewide system. It's owned by the state. The big advantage of it, other than it's going to increase our interoperability with other departments we work with, it's also going to greatly increase the safety of our guys working on the fire ground. A lot of buildings, some is very challenging for communications. Statewide system, and the big advantage is the state owns the infrastructure. So once you buy these radios, it's going to last us for the foreseeable future. That's a great way to kind of enhance our communication, to take liability off the big money, which is infrastructure, to build these systems. So that's a big plus for Summit.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. And I just want one clarification. The portables, we are keeping our additional portables, and we're reconditioning them to accept it. We're getting all new mobiles, and we're reconditioning our existing portables to fit the new technology. So,
Okay.
all right.
Great.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions from members of the public?
I guess
yes,
there's one thing I was just thinking. I was at the Communication Center meeting this afternoon, and New Providence, Scott Ruff is really excited that we're getting this new equipment, to say the least. So he's looking forward to being able to keep in communication in all of our blind spots, if you will. So
Yes. Yeah. It's great to know. Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, okay. Safety, number 2, Councilman Gould.
Okay, I move to adopt the resolution ID number 5743, which authorizes acceptance of a donation of $8,000 to the fire department from Celgene Corporation, which is to help with training and equipment costs. The Celgene and the fire department have a close working relationship, as you would expect, with one of our largest commercial ventures in town and our fire department. And so we're very grateful to accept this money.
second.
Any comments from members of council? Any comments from members of the public? Further discussion? All I can say is, well, thanks to Celgene for donating the money. That's great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to works. Number 1, Councilman Bowman.
Okay, thank you, Council President. Works 5704 is a resolution to award the bid for Plymouth Road Improvement Project to Fisher Contracting in an amount not to exceed $248,614.05. Fisher is located in Scotch Plain, was the lowest of 11 bidders, and have done work here in Summit before, including working on Hillcrest Road. The Plymouth Road project was included in the 2017 capital project budget. Work will include upgrading the storm and sanitary infrastructure, curbing and sidewalk replacements, safety improvements at the Silver Lake intersection, and of course, milling and paving. I'm sure the residents who live and drive on Plymouth will look forward to a much smoother ride. I move we accept this resolution.
Second.
Comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Further discussion? I think it's great that we got 11 bids. I think
Yeah.
I've never heard that we got 11 bids for anything. That's great. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? That's great. Works
Two.
Works 2, Councilman Bowman.
Okay, Resolution 5703 is to award a bid for replacing the storm water ejector pump here in City Hall basement to T.R. Weininger in the amount not to exceed $54,600. Weininger is located in Piscataway and was the lowest of only 4 bidders, which met the engineering estimates. If you recall, we had to reopen these bids because the previous bids we had received didn't qualify, meaning they were over our engineer estimates. While we have not worked with these contractor before, we have checked their references and they come highly rated. This project is to replace 25-year-old pump, original equipment to this building. It is vital to protecting our basement from flooding. The basement includes records retentions, police locker rooms, and various staging areas important to City Hall operations. This project was included in the 2017 budget. I move we accept this resolution.
Second.
Comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, works number 3, Councilman
Okay.
Bowman.
Yes, I'm spending money tonight. This is to
All
award.
in a good cause, all in a good
Yes, yes, yes,
How
of
kind
course.
of you.
How kind of me.
Steve's ready to check himself, so we're good.
Check. Resolution 5738 is to award the bid to City of Summit Cooperative Pricing for the 2018 Micro Surfacing Program, not to exceed $134,736.72 to Asphalt Paving Systems out of Hamilton, New Jersey. The square yard cost of $2.69 is up from the 2017 square foot price of $2.32, an increase of 16%. And that is attributed to, I don't know if you guys heard this, but today oil hit the 3-year high. So that is what this is related to. The 4 of the 6 communities that take part in our co-op are participating. Projects to be surfaced include Sheridan Road, Dennis Place, Weaver Street, Fremont, Milton Avenue, Lowchester, Canterbury, Rotary Drive and Lane, West End, Dale Drive, Joanna Way, Cottage Lane, Norwood Avenue, and 2 of our Board of Education parking lots. There's going to be some smooth driving in the coming neighborhoods this summer. Just so you know, this is a very economical way of extending our roadways approximately over 10 years. So it's money well spent. I move we accept this resolution.
Second.
Comments from members of council? Any comments from members of the public? Oh, Matt.
I do have a comment. Thanks, Councilman Bowman, for talking about the price of oil, and as it looks like it's can continue trending upward, or maybe this is a question for City Administrator Rogers, would it make sense to try to do some more micro repaving now before the cost of the materials goes up a lot higher?
Wow.
Paul, do you want to try to address that? Michael, here.
I mean, do we have time?
Yeah.
I think certainly we're budgeting for what we perceived as the schedule of micropaving, so we have limited resources allocated for that purpose. So there's not really an option to do more. As we know with the oil market, as it may be trending upward, could be $45 in 2 months. I mean, you don't know at that market right now. So geopolitical events do play into that. No, but I'll let Paul share.
Paul, do you want to add
his thoughts
anything
on it.
to?
No, I agree with City Administrator Rogers. And we do fund X amount of dollars each year for micro. And we're going to move right to that point this year. But also, we don't, it would be tough for us this year to dedicate resources to prep the additional roads. So a lot of the roads that you see here that are going to be micropaved have to be prepped by Public Works. So there's a lot of work involved, crack sealing and patching and so on and so forth. But, I would love to be able to budget more next year and increase the square yardage eventually, because it is a great product. We've seen a lot of good success over the last 12, 14 years with this. And it's really helped out in, maintaining the longevity of roads versus having to go in and reconstruct at a very high cost. So I'm a big proponent of this. I love it. Seen a lot of communities now jumping on board and following that lead, so.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, if it's just if you look at the cost to do Plymouth Road versus the cost to do all these other roads, micropaving is wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments from members of council? Any comments from members of the public? Any further discussion? All I'll say is, if you want to look at all the number of roads that you are doing, it's all over the town. There's a wide distribution of what, so I think that's great that all different neighborhoods are being touched here and getting work done around them. So with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? Great. Okay, moving on. Before we get to the consent agenda, is there anyone that would like to pull anything from the consent agenda? How is that all set up, right? Isn't that nicely done? Exactly. Is this a setup or what?
Council President, I would like to make a motion to pull the General Services Resolution to authorize a change order to stand alone this evening and be pulled up from the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so why don't we just deal with that, the consent, the resolution dealing with authorizing the change order for number 1. Councilwoman Ogden.
Thank you. This is a resolution to authorize the community center renovation project for the amount of $14,655. This resolution will allow the community center to completely be powered by a generator. It was going to be partially powered, and thanks to a grant becoming available, we are able to completely have the entire facility be under a generator. And this allows the community center for the future to be a warming station or possibly a shelter if in emergency situation. This amendment will allow the necessary additional architectural and engineering costs that will go along with the this generator and the needs of it to be in place. So I would like to move this resolution for this change order.
Thank you.
I second.
Great. Any comments from members of council or questions?
Yes, Council
Council
President.
Marjorie.
Thank you. I think it's great that the community center will be fully, have a full facility backup generator. I think that's really important given the history of storms that we've been having. I just had a couple of questions. First of all, has Summit actually received the grant to make this possible, or are we just at the application stage, first of all?
Paul, do you know? Do you want to? Or I do. Okay, go on. Come on up then.
So we did apply 3 years ago for a hazardous mitigation grant for generators. And we did receive the award for the grant, and that included 2 facilities, the Public Works facility and also the DCP facility. We haven't moved forward with placing the generators or going out to bid for the project. We are waiting for the community service, the DCP project to go underway. And when that finishes, then we're going to move forward with installing both generators, one at Public Works and one at DCP. But we were awarded the money, and we just need now to move forward with the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And my other question is, will there be additional construction costs that will be following? Or is this it?
That's a great question. Jamie's here tonight, and I think I can answer, and please help me. You don't know. I think that they are doing everything in their power to keep, when there are changes, to make sure that whatever bids they get are the lowest bids, to change and make sure that they're doing it as cost effectively as they can. I think it's the unforeseen. They had soil that they had to treat. There was a tank underneath. There are unforeseen changes, but I think that now with the construction above ground, hopefully from our lips on up, hopefully there will not be any more major changes.
My question was actually more, I should have been more specific. It was, will there be additional construction costs associated with what are right now being, we're asking for architectural changes right now.
Correct.
And will-
Architecture and electrical, correct?
Right, so will there be changes later on that are as a result of whatever the architects are doing to install the generators?
Jamie, can you answer that?
Jamie, why don't you come on?
Jamie Colucci, Department of Community Programs. Councilwoman Fox, so with the changes tonight, as far as moving forward, there will be some small changes as far as, because the generator has increased in size, some cables have to be increased in size as well, additional piping underground, very minor because they weren't put in before the grant came available, so it's just more of a materials cost as opposed to labor costs. So there will be some minor ones which we do not have processed yet because the purchase of those materials is not done.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie, since you were up here, maybe you could
Yes, sir.
just fill the community, us, on how the project is going overall, just your sense.
Council President, the project is moving full speed ahead.
Great.
Anybody that's driven down Morris Avenue can see we now have some framing out front, which is our new offices, game room, senior lounge. And in the back, if you look real careful, there is a very large full-size gymnasium going up. The crew is there, and we expect it to be assembled in the next 6-7 business days. The erection crew will leave, the masons will put up some walls, and then they will come back to finish the erection that needs to be done there. So you will see a lot of work over the next few months, and then it'll all shift inside to finish it all out.
Now, can't wait to see the completed building. Looking
You
forward
and me both, Council
to it.
President.
Yes, I'm sure, I am sure. Okay. Anybody
Anyone
else
else?
have any questions? Okay. Any, thank you. I'm sorry.
I just
Marjorie.
wanted to say I drove past and it looks like you guys are well underway and congratulations. I know you've been working very
Thank
hard on
you.
this.
Yeah. Any questions from members of the public? Okay. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Great. Okay, now moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. That moves us on to council member comments and new business. Any council members having any comments? New business? Apparently not. Okay, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.